Hey everyone, got a grammar test just around the corner? And are the words active and passive voice making you feel a little tense? Well, don't you worry. In the next few minutes, we're going to make this whole topic super simple and crystal clear for you. So let's get right into it. So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll kick things off with a really simple question. Then, we'll properly meet active and passive voice. After that, we'll learn the magic trick to swap between them. We'll master those all-important tense rules for your exam, see where this stuff actually shows up in the real world, and then we'll wrap up with a quick challenge for you. Sound good? Let's go. All right, first things first. Before we get into any of the boring grammar rules, let's just forget them for a second. We're going to start with a really simple situation, something you probably see every single day, right there at school. So just imagine your teacher walks in and asks this question. Now, how would you answer? If you think about it, there are a couple of different ways you could say it, right? You could say Priya is cleaning the classroom. That's pretty straightforward. Or you could say the classroom is being cleaned. Now, both of these sentences tell us the exact same thing. The classroom is getting spick and span. But look closer. In that first sentence, all the focus is on Priya. She's the one doing the action. In the second one, the focus is on the classroom, which is receiving the action. And that small difference right there, that is the entire secret to understanding active and passive voice. Okay, so now that we've got the main idea down, let's give these two styles their proper names. Don't let the terms active and passive scare you off. They're really just fancy labels for what we just saw with Priya and her classroom. First up, we have active voice. Now, this is the one you probably use all the time without even thinking about it. It's direct, it's super clear, and it tells you who's doing the action right from the start. The subject is, well, active. It's actually doing something. Let's look at this classic example. Joe eats a cake. Let's break it down. Who's doing the action here? Joe. He's our subject. What is he doing? He eats. That's our verb. And what is he eating? A cake. That's the object. Subject, verb, object. See how simple and direct that is? That's active voice for you. Now, on the flip side, we have the passive voice. In this case, the subject isn't really doing anything at all. Instead, something is being done to it. The subject is just kind of sitting there, being, you guessed it, passive. So let's take our sentence and flip it. A cake is eaten by Joe. Now, a cake is our new subject, but is the cake actually doing anything? Of course not. It's being acted on. It's being eaten. The focus has completely shifted from the doer, Joe, to the thing receiving the action, which is the cake. Okay, so this is super important. For your tests, you're definitely going to need to know how to change a sentence from active to passive. But don't worry, think of it like a simple recipe, a formula with just a few easy steps to follow. Let's go through it together. Here's our 4-step recipe. Step 1, the subject and the object swap places. Easy enough. Step 2, you add the little word by right before the original subject. Step 3, and this one is absolutely crucial. The main verb always changes to its third form, the past participle. So eats becomes eaten. And with that, you also add a helping verb like is or was. And finally, step 4, if you have pronouns like I or she, you'll need to change them. And here's a quick look at that pronoun step we just mentioned. So if the active sentence was I eat a cake, the passive version becomes a cake is eaten by me. See how I changes to me? Same for she becoming her, we becoming us, and so on. Just keep this little table in mind. It's a small detail, but it can get you big marks. All right, let's talk about the part that sometimes trips people up, the verb tenses. But honestly, don't worry. It looks more complicated than it is. we're going to break it all down with some simple, clear rules for present, past, and future. Let's kick it off with the present tense. All you have to do is follow this table. For a simple sentence like I eat salad, you use is, am, or are plus the verb's third form. So, salad is eaten by me. For present continuous, you add one magic word, being. So, he is driving a car becomes is a car being driven by him. And for present perfect, you just pop in been. It's all about adding the right little helper word. Now let's jump to the past tense, and you'll see it follows a very similar pattern. For simple past, instead of is or are, we just use was or were. For past continuous, there's our magic word being again, and for past perfect, we use had been. See that pattern? Once you see it, it becomes so much easier to remember. And finally, we have the future tense. For a simple future sentence like, he will eat lunch, you just add be plus that third verb form. The lunch will be eaten. And for future perfect, it becomes will have been. Seriously, feel free to pause and take a screenshot of these last 3 slides. They are going to be your best friends for the exam. So I know what you might be thinking. Why do we even have to learn this? When are we ever going to actually use the passive voice outside of a grammar test? Well, it turns out you probably see it and hear it all the time without even realizing it. We use the passive voice for a few really good reasons. Sometimes the action itself is just way more important than who did it. Other times, we honestly just don't know who the doer is. And it's also super common in things like official rules and science reports. Think about a sign like this. Does it really matter who doesn't allow trespassing? The principal, the government? Not really. The important thing is the rule itself. The focus is on the action, not the person behind it. That's a perfect real-life use of the passive voice. And here's another great one. At an airport, you'll hear the flight has arrived. They don't say the pilot has landed the plane. Why? Because we don't really need to know who landed it. The important piece of information is that the flight is here. The focus is on the event. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. We figured out what active and passive voices are, we learned the recipe for switching between them, and we saw where they're used. Now, let's do a super quick recap and one final challenge to make sure you're totally ready for your test. Here's your final test summary in a nutshell. Remember, active voice is when the subject does the action. Passive voice is when the subject receives the action. To convert, just follow the recipe. Swap subject and object, add by, always use the third form of the verb, and make sure you get the tense right. That's the most important part. All right, it's time for your final challenge. Take a look at this sentence. The students will decorate the hall. How would you change this into the passive voice? Go ahead and pause for a moment. Think about our recipe. Okay, ready for the answer? It is, the hall will be decorated by the students. The hall becomes the new subject. It's future tense, so we use will be, and decorate becomes decorated. Did you get it right? If you did, fantastic. You have totally nailed this concept. And that's a wrap. But I've got one last challenge for you. As you go about your day to day, I want you to be a grammar detective. Look at newspaper headlines, check the notices on your school board, or just listen carefully to the news. Now that you know what you're looking for, where will you spot the passive voice? Thanks for watching, and all the very best for your exams.